Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Today, we got a Western for you, Jarret Keene's Gunpowder Mountain, a Kid Crimson Western, a new book release with a sequel that's out now as well. Move these glasses so I can grab the sequel. The Guns of Goblin Valley. And just finished reading this one. Wanted to do a review. It is a groovy little book worth taking a look at. So let's talk a little bit about it. What are you going to get from Gunpowder Mountain? If you are a hardcore Western purist, this might not be the book for you. If you enjoy Western action films, Western comic books, stuff like even like Jonah Hex, things of that nature, this might be for you. It's good action, good characterization. The characters are interesting. The relationships between them are interesting. I found it to be a real page turner. I was actually, when I got it, I was in the middle of reading From Russia with Love, another Ian Fleming James Bond book, and cracked this book open, read the first couple chapters, and said, I think I'm going to finish this and I'll hit From Russia with Love later. And I'm actually enjoying From Russia with Love. This is a really engaging book. So our main character, obviously, is Kid Crimson. He is a Southerner. He's living in Nevada, 1860s, so we're in the middle of the Civil War. He's got quite a past, and I really enjoy the way that his past, it's brutal, informs the character. It's the foundation upon which he is built, but it doesn't trap him. So it's trauma in his life that he knows can push him in a particular direction. He doesn't want it to do that. He does everything he can to fight that, and generally speaking is successful, and he has his own hopes and dreams for the future of what he wants out of his life, and he's working hard to get there. But that past is still there, and we hear about it piece by piece through the book. So we're talking about a period in Nevada's history that is very much the Wild West. I mean, when you get right down to it, Nevada is in some ways, the last gasp of the Wild West. The last place that was, even though we were made a state before most of the states in the American Southwest and West, for silver, which, by the way, comes into this book, we're kind of the last place that the Easterners took over and civilized. And you could argue that, especially in Las Vegas, they never really did take over and civilize. Not entirely. Vegas has a real interesting history in and of itself. There's a great line in the book. Let me read this one, because what Jarret brings to this book and others he's written, they're about Nevada, and they're by a Nevadan. So he knows. We're not just this weird exotic place that people have heard of that has, that's just sort of the surface level. He knows the place, and he knows its roots and some of the history, even though the book is, a fictional thing and takes some liberties maybe with this and that, but it still has a sort of historical grounding. You can tell this is a guy who's done the research, and, well, I can't say he's walked the streets because those streets have been paved over for a long time, but maybe in his mind he's walked those streets and he's trying to bring it to you. But here's the paragraph that struck me. I'd only lived a few years in Nevada, but I felt I could say with total confidence that the Silver State was a realm of unbridled yet endearing insanity. It was a place of giddy depravity, and I was sure I'd miss it when I left to become a fruit farmer in California. There's a lot of truth to that characterization. So, Kid Crimson is a gunfighter who does his best in these days to stay on the right side of the law and be a good guy. He's got a steady girlfriend named Poppy. She's Chinese. She runs the local opium den. He has dreams of making her his wife, and as you saw in that little snippet I just read, moving to California to start a grapefruit orchard. He wants to leave the violence behind, even though at times he sort of admits that he almost hopes that he ends his life in a hail of gunfire. There's that gnawing at him of where he's been and what he's seen. And there's a great cast of characters populating this town that you get to know. It's very much sort of the misfits who all cling together and form a sort of family. I talked about that in a review a while back about that second family you form oftentimes in your 20s after you've left home with friends. That's very important for making that push from childhood into adulthood. And that's on display here. And all of these characters, I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of an archetype trope thing with some of them, but at the same time, individuals with agendas that are not entirely virtuous or vicious, but lead them in interesting places, and the relationships between them and the conflicts between them. It really works. And that's one of the things that got me. I started liking the characters. One of them actually almost despite myself. When she first appeared, I thought, "Ooh, is this one of those tropes?" And it kind of is. And I liked her a hell of a lot anyways. So it's a testament. The characters are well written, and you want to see how things are going to go for them. And you hope they get through okay. And like I said, I'm excited to read the next book and see what happens further in their lives. A lot of good action, a lot of brutal action. The gunfights, the fist fights, the knife fights are not done in a pretty way. They're bloody and they're meaningful. There's more to them than simply a fight. They do move the story. Well described. I often felt that I could see this on a movie screen. I could see this in a TV miniseries. I could see it in a comic book. You know, maybe Joe Kubert could draw it. That kind of style would work really well. Let me read one part here, because I always like to read a little bit so you could get a sense of the writing. Now this is from the middle of the book, but it's not going to give anything particularly away. It's something that the character had to endure. So here we go. Black night and roaring wind engulfed us. I couldn't see my companion, even though we found ourselves pressed together. I suffered the torture of his fetid breath and his miserable growling. I couldn't get the baggage door to close sufficiently enough to keep airborne sand from lacerating us. I decided to check the cable chain for snags. Handkerchief covering my nose and mouth, I climbed atop the cargo area again. Suddenly the sky cracked open. A blue-white dazzling streak of lightning illuminated the desert, every rock and cactus, luminously bright, vivid. The lightning also spotlit 3 figures with bandanas covering their faces, wind nearly pushing them to the ground, trudging toward us with knives brandished. And that leads to one of those action scenes. Very enjoyable book. I like the Kid Crimson character. I like where he's been. Well, I don't like where he's been, but I like that it's a part of the character, and but more importantly, what he's doing with it. He's not a man trapped by a traumatic childhood, but a man trying to move beyond it, but it's still a scar and it's still there, and it can still drag him into dark places at times. I like the other characters in the book. Verbena, who runs a saloon, Ezra, the shoeshine boy, Chaparral, who's an ex-boxer and a musician, and his wife, Rosie, a fortune teller, Sarah, a little Native American girl who, the character that I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like her, and I liked her very much. She was one that I could really picture. Not a particular actress, but I don't know. I could just picture her as a real person. I guess I've known little girls like her before in my life. Snake, a friend of his who Kid Crimson has a lot of frenemies when it comes to gunfighters. Anyways, I'm not going to go through all these characters. Good book. I sort of knew where it was going towards the end, but I was happy to see it get there and happy to see it actually play out. So it didn't ruin it for me that I was like not mega surprised by the ending. But I was at least partially surprised by the ending. It was good. And I like the fact that the characters kind of get a happy ending in this one. I know a lot of folks, every book needs to be a tragedy because there's only art in tragedy. And that's BS. There's happy emotions are artistic as well because art is about emotion. And the fact of the matter is audiences bring their own tragedies to everything that they watch and everything that they read. It's why comedies are so important. It is important to talk about tragic events and things that have happened. And sometimes it helps people to understand better the things other people have gone through. But it can't just only be that. And there's definitely room in the world for some generally happy endings. This is a happy ending with a hell of a body count, but it's still overall happy ending. I really enjoyed Gunpowder Mountain by Jarret Keene. Looking forward to seeing more Kid Crimson Westerns. And hey, it'd be awesome if it made the leap into comic book pages maybe someday. Who knows? Western comics are making a comeback. I know I've got a couple. I've reviewed 3 of them, I think, on my channel already. So, again, if you're a hardcore Western purist, this one may be a little bit too fanciful for you. I mean, if you look at the follow-up, we have an armored elephant on the cover, which makes sense when you read the synopsis, the summary. And that's what I like. He does make this stuff make sense. It's a little bit fanciful at times, Gunpowder Mountain. Well worth the read. Very engaging, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So, if you've read the book and have some thoughts on it yourself, I'd love to hear it in the comments. If you have any questions that I can answer without spoiling the story, I would be happy to answer them for you as well. If you enjoyed this video, please think about giving it a like, maybe subscribing to my channel, and maybe sharing with a friend who you think could be interested in this review. That would be very, very groovy. Thank you very much if you do. So until next time, God bless everyone. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Maybe give Gunpowder Mountain a try. It's a great little read. I will see you again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.